The New York Jets had the worst defense in the NFL in 2021. It got off to a really rough start, year one under head coach Robert Saleh, but going into his second season with the New York Jets as the head man, how improved is this defense going to be this upcoming NFL season? Because they ranked last in almost every statistical category possible. Not only that, but the offense didn't do them no favors, because even when the defense was able to get a stop, the offense would just go 3 and out and the defense would be right back on the field. On top of that, Robert Saleh didn't really have too much to work with last season. And around this time last year, I made a video saying that the Jets were most likely going to have one of the worst defenses in the league. Of course, many New York Jets fans got upset with that statement because it's the offseason. Everybody loves to hear optimism. Nobody wants to hear anything that sounds pessimistic or nothing that doesn't pertain to their football team being good. Well, if you go back and you remember Robert Saleh's first year as a DC for the 49ers, their defense struggled. And their defense started to improve around year 2. The longer he stayed the DC as the 49ers, every year they got better. So going into year 2, I think this defense is going to take a tremendous leap. And I'm not saying that this is going to be a top 10 unit, but I definitely feel it's going to be incredibly close. Probably around top 12, top 13 in the NFL. You have Lawson coming back. Jets fans were really hyped about him when he got signed in free agency last year from Cincinnati. He had a phenomenal camp. There were a lot of New York Jets reporters who were raving about his performance during fall camp. However, he suffered a Achilles injury, which sidelined him for the whole entire season. He's going to be coming back. You have John Franklin Myers, who had 6 sacks, tied for the most on the team with Quinton Williams. You have rookie Jermaine Johnson, who the New York Jets stole late in the first round of this past year's NFL draft. And I say stole for a reason. They stole Jermaine Johnson because I thought he was a top 10, top 15 player. I was incredibly surprised that he almost slipped out the first round. He has so much potential. He is explosive. He's really bulky, good against the run. If you go back and you watch Florida State last year and you watch their defense, there is no way that you're going to miss Jermaine Johnson. The dude was a machine wreaking havoc on every single offense that Florida State's defense was matched up against. So I really like what New York has to work with when it comes to their pass rush, their defensive end / edge rusher position. We can't forget about Quinton Williams, 6 sacks last year. He's one of the New York Jets' best players on defense, probably their best player that they have right now. You have Sheldon Rankins, Solomon Thomas. So I think the defense attack position, although you would like to see a little bit more depth at that position, I think it's pretty solid. You have 2 really good starters. You have Quinton Williams and you have Sheldon Rankins, who also is pretty solid. Linebacker is where I have some concerns at. CJ Mosley came back last year, and he was pretty solid, okay? He had 168 tackles, 2 sacks, 2 tackles for loss, 2 pass deflections. He was voted the New York Jets defensive MVP last year. But kind of would love to see him step up his game in coverage. Quincy Williams, you signed him really early into the season. He had a pretty okay season, considering this is somebody who didn't have a full off season to learn the New York Jets playbook. And there are many people inside of the Jets organization, from the articles that I've read, who are really high on Quincy Williams. They feel he has potential to really elevate his game in 2022, with the fact that he's going to have a full offseason to learn Robert Saleh's system. He's going to be a little bit more comfortable going into this year, because the New York Jets didn't really do that much to improve the linebacker position. So I think that they're really banking on Quincy Williams, who happens to be the brother of Quinton Williams. I was today's years old when I just found that out. He has a high motor, really good speed, but I feel that the New York Jets kind of are swinging for the fan with him. There's not really a guarantee that he's going to perform up to the level of expectations that they are hoping that he will. And there's also a good possibility that he could end up once again not having a good season. So for the New York Jets, this is a really big boom or bust player. But if he does end up panning out and he develops and he plays very well this year, then you got yourself a bargain. However, if he doesn't, then you're probably going to end up back at the drawing board come next year's NFL draft, looking to draft a linebacker with your first couple of picks. And then I don't really know how the other linebacker position is looking. I don't really think that the depth is all that great at linebacker neither. So if CJ Mosley or Quincy Williams, God forbid, goes down with an injury, I think it may be game over for the New York Jets. So you're hoping that Williams and Mosley can stay healthy, and you're also hoping that you get good play out of both of them, because the run defense wasn't all that fantastic, and it all starts with the big boys up front, but you also got to have good linebackers who can come in and clean up those tackles and, help things out in the run department. So if the linebacker play doesn't improve this year, the New York Jets run defense could struggle. And CJ Mosley wasn't even bad. He was solid. But if you look at PFF, the grades, which are what most people go off of when it comes to determining how good a certain player is at their position, they'll look at that PFF grade for CJ Mosley and they're going to say, I don't know, JT. I don't know. And if you look at Quincy Williams' PFF grade, you're going to say, I don't know about these linebackers, JT. But when it comes to CJ Mosley, I would just disregard the Pro Football Focus grade. Yes, it is an extra data point to look at, but I don't think you should fully determine how good a player is based off where Pro Football Focus grades them up as. I think CJ Mosley is one of those players who played better than what Pro Football Focus graded him out as. So the linebacker position still is a question mark for me. But for cornerback, if you're a Jets fan, you have to be in love with the talent that you have at cornerback this year. This is probably the most talented cornerback room that the New York Jets have had in a very long time. We already know about Sauce Gardner. You drafted him with your first pick in this past year's NFL draft. He was my number one rated corner over Derek Stingley. Very good man-to-man corner. He never gave up a single touchdown in all his years playing for Cincinnati. Remind you, this is somebody who held his own in the college football playoffs against Jameson Williams. So for Sauce Gardner, he has a really tough season ahead of him because the New York Jets have one of the hardest, if not the hardest schedule in the NFL. They face great team after great team after great team. I think they only played 2 teams who didn't make it to the postseason last year. Don't quote me on that. But they're going to be facing a lot of high-powered offenses and a lot of elite talent at wide receiver. So Sauce Gardner is going to be tested really early. And if he ends up being as good as advertised, he most likely should win NFL Defensive Rookie of the Year. Because if he ends up having a great rookie season, that means that he shut down some of the best wide receivers in the game. So I'm really excited about Sauce Gardner. I'm expecting some big things out of him. DJ Reed was signed to a 3-year deal worth $33 million. I can't believe that the Seattle Seahawks couldn't keep him. He's a very good corner, very productive. Last season for Seattle, he had 2 interceptions and 10 pass deflections. You have Bryce Hall, who had 16 pass deflections last year. He was very solid, probably their best DB on the roster. However, you would have loved to see him catch more of those pass deflections, but I don't really know what the Jets are going to do with him. Are you going to maybe try to move him into slot? Because Michael Carter, he had a pretty solid rookie year last year. Even though he kind of declined near the tail end of the season, still a really good rookie campaign. But Bryce Hall, I mean, was your best DB on the outside, and he wasn't bad. He was pretty solid. So what are you going to do with him? Are you just going to keep him on the bench? Are you going to trade him, try to flip him for a pick or something to that magnitude? Because he is a starting caliber corner. And the New York Jets have 3 corners on their roster who are all starting caliber, which is something that we haven't said about the New York Jets cornerback position in a very long time. So for New York, this is a very good situation to be in. The fact that we're trying to figure out what Bryce Hall, what his role is going to be in the defense this year, tells you how good the Jets cornerback position is. At safety, Jordan Whitehead was signed to a 2-year deal worth $14.5 million. I really like him a lot. One of my favorite safeties to watch. Many people graded him out to be one of the more underrated free agency signings. I would agree with that. Lamarcus Joyner got his season cut short due to a torn triceps tendon, which happened in the season opener last year. So he's coming back. So this defense has a little bit more, not even a little bit more talent. This is a defense that is way more talented this year than what it was last year. So for Robert Saleh, he's going to have so much to work with, and this defense should definitely go from one of the worst in the league to top 12, top 13. And on top of that, with the offense now being more improved, they shouldn't be going 3 and out every drive, because not only did the New York Jets have arguably the worst defense in the league, but they also had arguably the worst offense in the league. So whenever you have an offense that isn't good, that means that your defense is going to be on the field for more plays than what they should be. And I'm not going to spend too much time lecturing you guys on this, because I say it almost every single day, but too many people don't understand this. Too many people think that if you have a great defense, they're going to be able to bail you out time in and time out. And that's not the case all the time. Eventually, defenses get gassed. They get tired. And not too many people take that into account when it comes to determining how well a defense is going to perform. If you have an offense that does its job and is able to sustain drives and isn't going 3 and out every single possession, that's going to help out your defense. So I'm really excited about Robert Saleh and what his defense is going to do in 2022. I'm expecting big things out of the Jets defense going into this season, and I'm expecting this to be the most improved defense in the NFL for 2022.